are there specific foods that you recommend including to fight cancer and then eliminating that are big cancer causers?
So I think the biggest one outside of the insulin model, although it can play into it too, are the seed oils, right? The processed oils. Those have been shown in animal models. You feed the animals omega-6 fats like soybean oil or corn oil, and they grow cancer. And if you feed them, coconut oil and palm oil and those saturated fats, they don't. So we know that I want patients to have good quality saturated fats in their diet, and I don't want them to have those processed seed oils in their diet. That's like a non-negotiation. But I will say that I actually advocate for fewer nuts and seeds because they are still high in linoleic acid. And I have done testing because I look under the hood and I will look at omega-3, omega-6 balances. And many of my nut and seed eaters, and so many of them are over consuming walnuts in particular because they have such a great omega-3, omega-6 ratio. But lo and behold, most of us or many of us don't actually have a good gene that turns that ALA, that alpha linoleic acid of the plant omega-3 world into usable EPA and DHA. So they're essentially getting a huge load of linoleic acid of omega-6 fats with no omega-3 to go along with it. So I usually say we shouldn't be doing the keto like almond flour, baked goods, and, almond butters. And I'm not saying you can never do them. I'm just saying they shouldn't be part of an everyday diet. I don't think that nuts and seeds are where we should be getting our protein and our fat. I think that those should be coming from our animal-based foods. And then, if you want to do a little bit now and again, fine. You need a little crunch or a salt or, whatever. Okay. And then, I really, outside of that, I don't get too much into the weeds. There are some people who I do recommend a full carnivore diet for because I can see autoimmune issues. I can see maybe oxalate related issues. So it's another reason nuts and seeds tend to be less or lower on my list because of lectins and oxalates and phytic acids. And I feel like they're binding some of the minerals we actually want to get. I'm a little bit of the Sally Norton camp of, let's stay away from, because I developed my own issues. So I was following a ketogenic diet, but doing a lot of the almonds and spinach and, dark chocolate and blackberries and, whatever. And then I'm in, having issues. And so I do think that we can overdo things. And so I always try to go back to ancestral days. And, my neighbor was growing strawberries one year and he came over with a little handful. He have some of my strawberries, and literally 10 strawberries were smaller than 10 raspberries. I'm like, this is what natural strawberries look like. Like whatever we're eating is not really food. So I always go, how much could have been shared? How much would have been gathered? How much would we have really invested our time and effort into getting some of these plant pieces? So I'm a little bit more carnivore based, but that doesn't mean that I don't have patients who choose to do more plant-based ketogenic diets. And we just always keep coming back to numbers. And so we do identify maybe the omega-6 issues. Maybe we are identifying some other inflammatory issues, but some people do just fine on those foods. But that's why I like to look at labs and I like to constantly check in because we're going to make these changes. And then maybe you read something and you decided to add in some supplements or something. And then we recheck labs and I go, wow, something looks a little off. Like, what's different? Oh yeah, I decided to add this in because I read something about it or saw something about it. And I'm like, oh, I think that's maybe not actually helping you because now these numbers are looking a little off.
You touched on the carnivore diet. I want to stick there for a little bit. And I'm curious, if somebody were to come to you and they're, feeling desperate and they've been diagnosed with cancer and they want to go all in and they want to know the quote unquote best diet, again, nuance that it's going to depend on the stage and type of cancer, but why not go carnivore? Is there any downsides? Because you mentioned some of the plant toxins, and when we go carnivore, we're going to basically it's the ultimate elimination diet to
Yes.
fasting. So we're going to be eliminating any potential plant toxins. Arguably, there's things in the plants that could do some good when it comes to cancer. So what I'm throwing at you is, why not carnivore if somebody is willing to go that route? Would you say that's the ultimate?
Yes. And that with the caveat of some people that go carnivore also do high dairy. So dairy is not always optimal for everybody. There's many of people who, if I'm really struggling with insulin or something, I'm like, oh, let's cut out dairy. Let's see if that's your hiccup. So yes, I will support anybody if they say, I want to go all in carnivore. I also have I have a number of diets that I will share with patients, and I often will give them all of my handouts and say, you kind of look through them, see what you think. But I kind of have like, here's the carnivore one. Here's the carnivore with kind of low inflammatory plants. Here are the ones you could eat raw. Here are the ones you should be cooking. Here's, kind of an in-between. And then I have kind of a standard ketogenic diet, which is normally how I start most folks. Because again, I have some people who find me because they want to do carnivore or they're already doing carnivore. I have others that are coming to me from vegan and vegetarian diets and they're not ready to do that kind of a jump. And they like, let's just focus on getting you good nutrition first. And then maybe we can work our way to that if we need to. But yeah, so I will say that I do think that's the best for some patients. But some patients aren't ready to go there or aren't ready. That's just it depends on where they're coming from, because that could be such a huge transition. Like I have, you can imagine the people that are doing, I'm doing my flax, hemp, chia seed pudding with my, berries and my, maybe they're doing yogurt or eggs, but it's such a 100% flip. Even people who are eating regular, decent standard American diets where they know that, okay, sugar and, maybe even grains are not where I should be and I'm doing more real food. But like the idea of you need to replace your fruits and vegetables with literally the fattiest cuts of meat and add fat, like that, it's a hard mental place to get to sometimes for folks.
I hear you. But what I'm hearing between the lines here is that if somebody goes that route, it's not like we're omitting certain phytochemicals that are beneficial, because you hear things like turmeric, the potency of that being anti-inflammatory, green tea. Again, a lot of these could be missed, but there is certain phytochemicals that people associate with fighting cancer. So they're not going to miss out. The carnivore is not going to miss out on any of those.
Well, so yes, some call them phytonutrients. I call them phytotoxins. Again, I don't feel like that data is very robust. And I do reiterate that if somebody is going to eat a plant-based diet, you absolutely need the color of the rainbow, because each of those colors do contain different nutrients, and you're going to miss, some of the nutrients if you stick to only X or only Y. But the animal-based nutrition is so replete with nutrients, and we are animals. We need different types and balances of amino acids and fatty acids and micronutrients. We're not growing, stems and roots and leaves. We're growing, bones and meat and, muscle and such. So I think that we need to get away from, again, I feel like the phytonutrients or chemicals in plants, I think are coming right back to that pathway blocker, that let's somehow create an anti-inflammatory response, as opposed to let's just remove the inflammatories and let our body be in an anti-inflammatory state. So I just come at it from a different perspective than that plant-based world.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
This is your body saying, hey, I finally had to throw down this really big, scary word at you so that you would stop and listen, so that you would stop and look. And so now let's just work to see what is